Looking to pick up your very own custom sleeves? Well, look no further. Go to yourplaymat.com where you can choose to have your very own image on the back of sleeves, or you can choose from their amazing range of pre-designed artwork ready and waiting for you. Get them shipped directly to your door and use the affiliate link and discount code down below to get 10% off. What are you waiting for? Go and grab your custom sleeves from yourplaymat.com. What's up YouTube, Dow here from War Games, and today I am bringing you a test hand combo video for, of course, the Ogdoadic Chaos profile that I did for you guys the other day. You smashed that previous video more than 50 times, so if you do the same to this video, I will bring you a duel involving this deck as well. But what we're going to do after you smash that like button, hit that notification button and subscribe, we are going to dive head first into a test hand video for the Ogdoadic Chaos profile. Doing 2 test hands going first and 2 test hands going second to show you the aggressive and defensive nature of this deck. So after a good old shuffle and a very decent cut, our opening hand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, we've pretty much opened up a broken combo already just by getting into Snake Rain, because that's going to allow us to pretty much set everything into motion. Now, one downside of the entire hand is you've opened up the Water Lily, and ideally you want to kind of search that later on in the combo, but that is if you play more Ogdoadic spells and traps, then you're getting an additional plus. We've also got Queen that we can put straight in the graveyard as well. So, use Snake Rain and the Queen, put them into the graveyard, resolve Snake Rain, and send. Now, the cards you want to send, definitely Curse, definitely a Naya, definitely a Nunu. There we go. And then you want to send another high level monster. So you can either go for your Arlatrict, which will give you your rank 8 plays later on, or you want to go for your Ogdoadic the Overlord. Now keep in mind as well, by sending the Nunu, that will also let you send a Dark. So that is another way of you being able to get to the graveyard your Ogdoadic, because it is a Dark as well. So from this combo already, what we've been able to set up, because we control no monsters, is you can revive the Nunu from the grave, and it will get banished, which actually sets you up your Nemesis flag play. So you summon this back, then you use Curse's effect. Curse will then tribute this off, sending it to the banished zone to summon itself out. This will then trigger to summon out the Nuya. Annoyingly, it has to be a level 4 or lower. But by summoning back the Naya, this is where you then get to search out the Water Lily. So if you didn't already open it up, this is the point where you get to. And you've pretty much set your graveyard up with more than enough snakes or more than enough reptiles to be able to use the revival effect as we get going. So then what you're going to do here is you're going to activate Nemesis Flag's effect to special summon itself. Keep in mind we've maintained our normal summon as well. You're going to put the Nunu back. Now, the only reason we're doing that is because we've got the ability to discard the Nunu and set the grave up anyway. You can then use Nemesis Flag. Now you've got 2 options here. You can go to Corridor, because what's going to happen when you get rid of Naya is it's going to get banished. So your Corridor can then summon itself. But because we want to pretty much try and lock our opponent out as best we possibly can, we're going to go with Ishatos. Now what we're trying to aim to do here is we're trying to set up our graveyard with 3 different monster types. Now obviously at the moment, because we've only discarded reptiles, we've only got reptiles in the grave, we've got a Pyro on the board there. So you do have a couple of options that you can try to go for. Is you can try and set up your rank 8 plays, which you can do, or you can try and set up, so for example in this kind of scenario right now, Protoss would actually be better, because you'll end up with a Fire, Light and a Dark guaranteed. But you want to make sure that Ishatos is one of the last cards you bring down, because you're going to banish from the graveyard. So you want to make sure you resolve the Water Lily first to bring back one of your boss monsters. So in an ideal scenario, what you're going to be doing here is you're going to end up linking off the flag and your Nayu. Now your Nayu is going to get banished because it got summoned off of the curse. And what you want to do here is you want to ideally, if you don't know what your opponent's play, if you do know what your opponent's playing, you're going to IP Masquerena. If you don't, or you need to get a monster of the same type that your opponent controls, you make Reaperdonkus. Because Reaperdonkus will then allow you to turn a Shatos into anything, and then you can nuke your opponent from there. Now our graveyard currently consists of 2 reptiles and of course Nemesis Flag. So what you want to do here is you want to go for the Nunu, using its own effect to send it from send it from hand to the grave, and then send a Dark. So the Dark you want to send, if you want to instigate your rank 8 plays, is of course going to be the Arlatrict. Now from this point on, you've got 4 reptiles exactly in the grave, and this is where you're then going to want to go, right, okay, Ogdoadic Water Lily, activate this to send a 5th. Now the 5th, you probably want it to be king. If anything, you want to get all of your big boss monsters out of the deck as early as possible. So you're going to send the king. Because you've got 5 or more reptiles in the graveyard, you now have the ability to bring back any of the reptiles off of the water lily. So I would probably go for... Well, the Overlord sends everything that isn't summoned from the graveyard. So you would lose your Ashatos, you would lose... If you keep Reaperdonkus on the board, you would lose that as well. If you go with King, King will allow you to rip one from your opponent's hand. And then it also gives you the ability to search. So it does give you the ability for a bit more of a later game setup. So we'll go with King on this example. Now here's again where you've got 2 more options. So if we use Protoss, then this is made a lot easier because you've got lights and darks you can banish in the graveyard. Because we don't have Protoss, what we're going to actually want to do here is you want to use your Armoric to send the Reaperdonkus. Now keep in mind as well, the only time you're going to want to send this is because you know what your opponent's playing. So let's say for example we're playing against Dragon Link, you're good to go. Because then what you're going to do is you're going to set up your graveyard, you've got a Reaperdonkus, you've got a Reptile, so you can use the Nanu if you want to, or you can save that for the next turn, and you can use Flag. So we use Flag, Queen, and Reaperdonkus. We're going to banish those 3, we're going to bring down our Ashatos. Ashatos can then call either Dragon or Reptile. Now obviously you're going to want to try and call Dragon if you're up against Dragon Link, and that's going to shut it down. Then what you then have the ability to do is overlay these 2. Now obviously if it was Protoss, then you'd be Light, Dark, and Fire. You would actually be able to keep your Link 2, which would probably be like IP Masquerena or Reaperdonkus. Then what you want to do here, because you want to go defensive, is you'd overlay the 2 level 8s over here into your Dragulabon, and then you're going to use Dragulabon's effect to attach number 100 to your Galactic Hope Harbinger. You want to make sure that Curse goes in the graveyard as well, because then Curse can summon back another Reptile during the next turn. So the Water Lily is going to be in the graveyard. You've got the Water Lily in hand. Now what you've ended your board with here is your opponent cannot summon dragons, neither can you. You've got a non-target Dragulabon. You've then got a Spell Negate off of the Hope Harbinger, and you can redirect the attacks to it so that none of these cards can just be attacked over. You've got King that is going to rip one from your opponent's hand if they add except during the draw phase. And then you also have the ability to send one of your opponent's monsters. If a monster your opponent controls is sent to the graveyard, except during the damage step, so if they link it off or anything like that, you then get to add a light or dark reptile monster from your deck to your hand except itself. So then you can go for another Nunu or you can go for a Naya, and that will set up your more lights and darks in the graveyard. So worst case scenario, like you're kind of protected from Super Poly because you've only got 1 dark on the board as well. So worst case scenario, if they were to clear this board, let's just say that they did exactly that. Clear the entire board. And let's say, again, we're going to go worst case scenario, they didn't even trigger the King's effect, right? You still got a Water Lily in hand, or the 1 card that you would have started with, plus you're going to draw another card. Now, just from your graveyard, your recursion play is nuts, because you've got the ability to special summon out your Nunu. You've then also got the ability to use either Curse or, of course, Arlet's effect to bring itself out. Now, obviously, the issue is because you haven't got a Naya in the graveyard, just by doing that, it's just going to give you a level 8 beta. But also, you've got to keep in mind, you've got the Ogdoadic Water Lily, so you can bring back your big snake guy. This can then clear your opponent's board off, and then you can make further plays from that point on, because this protects everything that isn't being sent, that hasn't been summoned from the graveyard. Plus, you've got whatever this card is, which is a Flogus. So you can then normal summon this. You can make a rank 4, go into King of the Feral Imps. Keep in mind you're locked into Reptiles while he is on the board. If you're going to King of the Feral Imps, King of the Feral Imps will then be able to search. So the one thing you haven't really been able to see massively in this engine, in this kind of test hand, is the Chaos version. Now, the Chaos engine. Just imagine if your graveyard was all of these, lights and darks. Just imagine if you top decked like a Chaos Space, or you top decked a Chaos Emperor. Not Chaos Emperor, sorry, a Chaos Collector. You're then going to be able to resolve that effect, and then that effect will then allow you to bring back some of your banished cards that you set up from the past turn. So that's when you kind of want to banish your Queen, or you want to banish your King, because then Chaos Collector can bring them back for you. So now let's do a second test stand going first, and show you kind of like, hopefully in this test stand we'll be able to show you more of the Chaos plays itself, and show more of the synergy, because in all of that you saw the Nemesis engine and how that works really, really well. So, after a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this is actually the perfect hand, because what this is going to show you is it's going to show you the utility of Nemesis, the amazement of the Ogdoadics, and then obviously just the pure combo power of the Chaos engine. So obviously the whole idea behind this is through stuff like Snake Crane, through stuff like the White Wyvern Buster, you're going to be setting up your Protoss, you're going to be setting up your Ishatos, and you're also going to be setting up your Lights and Darks for your White Wyvern plays. So what you can do here is you can start away by using the Naya effect, but again, because we've opened up King, I would probably try and activate Snake Crane first. Now, if you're worried about Ash or trying to bait something out, then use the Naya first, because then if they Ash this, then Snake Crane is pretty much free to go. So activate the Snake Crane, sending King from your hands. Straight away you set up a Reptile. Then what you want to do is you want to send a Naya, you want to send a Nunu, you want to send, where are you, the big boss Ogdoadic, and then you also want to make sure you send a Curse. There we go. So that's like the perfect send off of Snake Crane, because from here you maintain your normal summon, you've got Lights and Darks, you've got the whole thing. So special summon out Nunu, there we go. Use Curse effect to trigger off the Nunu, Nunu gets banished, setting up your Nemesis play. Curse effect triggers to summon out the Naya, Naya's effect will then trigger to get you your Snake Crane, not your Snake Rain, sorry, your Organic Water Lily. And then you're pretty much good to go from here. So the one thing you do have to control is the Darks in the graveyard. So that's where your Naya comes into play, or your second Naya comes into play. If you don't do that, then what you want to make sure is rather than sending your big Overlord, is you want to make sure you send a Dark. So that's something to always keep in mind on, is what you've got in your hand, what you've got on the board and everything like that. Because as soon as this goes, it's going to get banished as well. So keep that in mind. We're going to repeat the same play that we did last time. Nemesis Flag's going to put Nunu back. And that's going to allow us to search. Again, you could go for your corridor if you want to, but we're not. We're going to go for a Shatos, because pretty much if you know what your opponent's playing now by turn game 2 or anything like that, or you've got a strong suspicion, then obviously if your opponent is playing Dragon Link and they can't summon dragons, like they're not playing the game, and you're going to OTK and win the next turn. So again, from this point here, keep in mind that Naya will get banished, so you kind of want to use Flag and Naya. There we go. It sets up your graveyard as well. Again, if you know, you can go with IP Masquerena. If you don't and you need to change the attribute, then you go with Reaper Donkus. And then what you've done here is you want to make sure you get a Dark into the grave, so that's where your second Naya is going to come into play. So you activate the Naya. That will then send a Light. So you can send a Nunu to set up your future plays, or of course you can set up a play with your Flogus and your Zohar. Same as Flogus. There we go, Flogus, because obviously what you remember is if you discard the Dark, you have to send a Light, and if you discard the Light, you have to send a Dark. So you make sure you set all of that up. Your Flogus also gives you the ability to discard and add it back to the hand, which is actually quite important sometimes, because you don't, as you've seen, we haven't actually used our normal summon. So then what you want to do here is you want to banish a Dark, so you're going to banish the second Nunu. Don't worry, you can bring them all back. And you're going to go into your White Wyvern Buster. Now, obviously, if you did all of that before you made the Reaper Donkus, it actually makes life a little bit easier, because that will then allow you to get your search of the White Wyvern Buster, which is probably what I should have done. And that would have left, let's say we left Flag on the board. So just replay what I've done, but instead of making Reaper Donkus before this, you send the Naya first. And then we're sending a Wyvern Buster to make the Reaper Donkus, because then that gives you the Black Collapse. And it just gives you an additional monster on board. So obviously if you keep the Naya, that's another way. So if you link off with Flag and Wyvern Buster instead, then what you can do, and I'll quickly show you, so if Flag goes to the graveyard and the first Naya stays, then what the Black Collapse can do is you can actually make any rank 4 you want. So what I'm trying to set up, which you should be able to do off of the Water Lily, is we want to set up a Ishatos, a Board Clear, and a rank 4. So it could be a Abyss Dweller, could be Daguerreas, can be anything you want. So go Black Collapse, we're going to banish the White Wyvern. There we go. Do we need to banish the White Wyvern? No. Keep the White Wyvern because it's a dragon, so that helps your Ishatos, so banish the Flogos. Overlay these two because you're not going to be able to search out the White Wyvern, so if you've got Chaos Space, you make a different play. But with these, you can now make a rank 4, a link 2, anything you want. You can even make King of the Feral Imps, which gives you an additional Reptile search for your next turn. So it really depends on where you're trying to play and what you're facing against. And then what you're going to do here is you're going to bring down your Ishatos. Ishatos can banish the Dark, a Pyro, and a Reptile. Now keep in mind as well, if you want to save these, it's actually really important to try and save these, to be fair. You want to try and activate the Water Lily first to set up your graveyard with 5 Reptiles. So that's probably where you'd maybe want to keep the Flogus in the grave first. Let me just check this, 1, 2, 3. And this one needs to have 5 or more. Yeah, maybe you can't resolve the Lily, which is fine. So banish the Flogus, get your Ashatos out, banish in Flag, Queen, and Wyvern Buster. Bring down the Ashatos. Reaper can turn it into anything it wants. Then what you can do is you can activate the Water Lily. The Water Lily. Then what you want to send, because you want your rank 8, is you're going to send your Arterit. And then your Arletrit. Let me just double check. Tribute 1 monster. So you're going to tribute the Reaper now that it's served its purpose. You're going to bring this back out. You're going to overlay this. Water Lily's gone. And you're going to go into your Dragulabon. The Dragulabon will then detach and bring you out your Hope Harbinger. So then what you've got here is you've got any rank 4 you want. Your opponent's not going to be able to play the game as long as you know what they're playing. And then you've got a non-target, a tap redirect, and a spell and trap. The only difference is you don't have much of a next turn play setup because you've got everything is pretty much set in your graveyard. There's not really any reptiles you're bringing back. You didn't get a second searcher for Naya. So you burnt through all your resource, but you've kind of set up a board that says if you break it, you win. If you can't break it, you know I'm winning. So... and now we're going to show the more aggressive nature of the deck. Now, what you've got to keep in mind is the exact same play we've just done can be done in a more aggressive manner because the Ashatos clears the board. That's one thing that a lot of people forget is the Ashatos actually destroys all monsters of the declared like type or attribute. And then that will then allow you to go in for free swings. It doesn't even stop it. It doesn't even say, right, okay, this card now can't attack, which is pretty bonkers if you ask me. So another decent shuffle and a good old cut. Our opening hand of 6 this time will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, a nice balance between the lights and darks. Now, the issue we would have is if we didn't get the Naya, we wouldn't be able to put lights and darks in the graveyard, and we'd be in a bit of a sticky situation because obviously a normal summon of a Zohar isn't really ideal. But that's where either you get your Naya, you get your Snake Crane, or we've even got the Ogdoadic Water Lily, which is going to send at least 1 reptile. So you still have a lot of plays to make. The corridor's not as great as the Flag, but it is still a free special summon for a level 4, or just a free special summon for anything you need. So go in a Naya and the Nunu play. Now, this is probably where we're going to need to waste the Water Lily, but you'll get a second one anyway. Because then what you want to do is you want to go, your Naya wants to send the Nunu. There we go. And then you want to activate the Ogdoadic Water Lily. And what this will then do is this will then set up your grave. Now, you can probably hold on to the Lily and go a little bit more aggressive later on. But this is just to get your monsters on the board. Where are you, Curse? Right at the top. So you send the Curse. Now, obviously, you don't have 4 reptiles. What you could try and do is you could try and play around with the Wyvern Buster play, the Corridor Spinning Stuff play, normal summon your Zohar because you don't actually need it. And then if it's sent from the field to grave, you can special summon from the sent from the field to the graveyard or special from the graveyard. Your opponent draws a card, and then if you do, you get to add an Ogdoadic monster from your to your hand from your deck. So again, it's a bit of give and take. It's not great to let your opponent draw, but you want to try and save that as best you possibly can. Anyway, we're going to play the same combo. So we're going to bring back the Nunu. We're going to tribute off the Nunu for the Curse. The Curse is going to bring back the Naya. The Naya is then going to get you your second Water Lily. You've got a banish Nunu, so you can just go Corridor, spin this back into the deck. Now, so you do not neg a little bit, but your Corridor's not going to be as good as the Flag because it doesn't search you out another card that you can play around with. So that's obviously something as well that's really important to keep in mind. Now, keep in mind that we used the Naya effect. So if you wanted to, you could make King of the Feral Imps, which would make sure your Naya doesn't get banished. So, for example, if we did this, and we put a Dark in the graveyard, that will then allow us to search out our Nunu. Because we haven't used the Nunu discard effect, you can discard the Nunu to summon, to send a Dark. There we go. So this can also send, where are you? Your Ellerit. And then the Ellerit will give you the ability to put lights and darks back into the graveyard. So that's obviously something massive to keep in mind as well. So if we were to special summon down the Wyvern Buster, banish in a dark, as long as you don't banish the Ellerit, you'll be fine. And then if you normal summon your Zohar, you've got the ability to link off, which will then trigger the Zohar's effect, which lets you add another reptile, but you don't really need to add another reptile, to be totally honest. I don't think there's a reptile that's desperately needed. You can go into the M frame. The M frame will allow you to give tokens to your opponent or put counters on your opponent, and then you can crash the M frame and bring monsters back during Main Phase 2, but ultimately you don't really need to do that. you've got the ability to make the BLS Soldier of Chaos here. You've also got the ability to make an access code, but if you're going to make access codes, you might as well rank up and put some work into it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to an IP Masquerena. At least we're going to get some strength off of it. You can trigger the Zohar, trigger the White Wyvern to block it. Yes, they get a draw, so it really depends on if you want to let them draw. And then we each send one card from a hand. So what you want to do is you want to be setting up your graveyard for something else. So let's go with, resolve the White Wyvern Buster first, which will give us, wherever he is, Black Collapse. And then you resolve the Zohar. So though your opponent draws, you get to add a reptile, and then you get to send a card from the deck to the hand, from your hand. Sorry. So you can add your Queen, you can add the Overlord, or if you wanted to, you could add any like a Naya, a Nuya, a Flogus, all setting up for the next turn. So it depends on where you want to go. I'm going to go with King, and we're going to send the King to the grave. I suppose it really depends if I want lights and darks in the grave. Well, I've got a decent balance of lights and darks. So we're going to banish the light of the White Wyvern Buster, you bring down the Black Collapse. You can then link your King of the Feral Imps, because he's done his job and he's a dark in the graveyard, keep that in mind, with your Black Collapse, and that will then let you go into any link 2 that you want. So if you want to deal with back row, you can go with Phoenix. You want to do a front row, you go with Cerberus. Ideally, all we're doing now is we're just putting different attributes in the graveyard for an access code climb. And even then, that's not something you really need to worry about either. So let me just double check this one. It is a monster. So what you want to do is you want to banish the lights and darks. So you can banish the King. This could have been the big giant serpent, the Overlord, if you want to. But it's entirely up to you. So if you banish the King, let's get rid of King of the Feral Imps. We'll bring down the Chaos Creator. Chaos Creator's effect will go off, which can then bring you back the King. This might have been where Queen would have been a better option to send that. And you're going to spin back your White Wyvern Buster, and you're going to spin back the Naya as well. Yeah, especially on one of them. So you've got the King on the board, which is 25. If you want to beef it up, it can be the Serpent. You've got rank 8 plays, so even if these plays get stopped, because you've got instant rank 8 plays, you can just go like Dragulabon and swinging for game. So it really depends on what you've got. Like, we've got so much power play here, because like just these two together makes you access code. With only 2k boost, but it's got 2 different attributes in the graveyard. These two here can make Dragulabon, and then obviously you can only attack with one monster, but you go with your Numeron Dragon straight away. And then if you wanted to, you could leave the King of the Feral Imps on the board throughout all of this combo play, and then that would allow you to have an even stronger Numeron Dragon. So you've got variations, you've got options is what I'm trying to say. Like, you can go access code OTK route with obviously backed up with Chaos Creators and Kings or anything like that. You've got the BLS control route, which would have given you a bit of decent protection because you would have been able to use it, make it using IP Masquerena, and then you would have also had the ability to go into the Dragulabon just swift. So like the Dragulabon, the best thing about it is if you're trying to dodge stuff like Nibiru or anything like that, you can kind of set up your grave just to go for rank 8 plays instantly without having to burn through too many monsters, and then that allows you to do that as well. So after a very final shuffle and a final cut, our last test hand of 6 going second will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually not a bad hand. You want to keep the Naya again. So keep in mind, right, basically you've got 6 ways of getting lights and darks to the graveyard. So you've got 3 Nayas and 3 Nunus. And then of course you've got 3 Snake Rains. Plus you've got 3 Chaos Spaces. So like the consistency to do that is massive. Now what you want to do with your Chaos Space is you're just going to send the Armorite, Ularit, because it's a dark. I don't mind that being in the grave. I've got no issues with that. I could search out a Levy in here if I wanted to be a bit more aggressive, but I'm just going to go for the Wyvern Buster because it's going to be able to set up my future plays. I've got the Naya that can go to the graveyard and put a light and dark in there, and that's also going to help me set up future plays as well. So it really depends on the route on where you want to go with this one right now. It's a little bit more restricted because we don't have the ability to put the Curse in the grave. So we're not going to have as full power for the Naya plays. But we will have very good plays with the Nemesis plays as well. Because that's going to give you the ability to kind of move further forward as well. So you've got 2 options here. You can banish the Ularit with the White Wyvern Buster. And then you can use the flag to put that back into the deck. You can use Flag's effect to either get you an Ashatos or it can get you a Corridor. because we're going to try and clear our opponent's board off, we want to go for an Ishatos or a Protoss, you know, whichever one you're playing. There we go. The Naya is going to set up our light and darks for the Chaos Creator, so you don't even need to worry too much about that. And what you want to try and do here is you want to be using and abusing the Chaos Space effect. Now, again, if you need to change, well, you shouldn't even need to change attribute or call an attribute, because Ishatos can burn the entire board for whatever it is. So ultimately, if you're going for a Link 2, you can go for any of the Cerberus, Phoenix, or even IP Masquerena, so it really doesn't matter too much. As long as you're going to trigger off the White Wyvern Buster, you're completely fine, and that will give us our Black Collapse, wherever he is. There you go, Black Collapse. Black Collapse will then banish White Wyvern, summon himself down, use Chaos Space to put White Wyvern to the bottom, draw one card off the Chaos Space. It's a dead Chaos Space, but oh well. You could have depth in a bit more with Naya if you want to, entirely up to you. Now what you want to try and do here, Naya won't let us get Nunu, but it will let us get Curse. Yeah, so then what you want to do here is send your Naya. Naya will then send a light. Now you don't want to go Nunu, you want to go Curse. Because then what you can do here, I'm going to put the White Wyvern because I'm going to search that out, is your Curse contribute off your Black Collapse to summon itself back. That will then summon out your Nunu. Naya, sorry. Naya will then trigger its effect. Black Collapse will trigger its effect to give you the White Wyvern. And then you're going to be able to search out a Water Lily. Not that you can use it as a Foolish Burial, which gives you rank 8 access again, because you just send the Alarit that you've put back. You've got a Dragon and a Pyro in the graveyard, so it's very easy to put get a Reptile to the grave as well. So if you're not going for rank 8 plays, you can pretty much, if you're worried about Nibiru or a monster effect or anything like that, you can move all of these to the grave. Obviously make sure you banish the Naya, and you can go into a defensive Appaloosa for free, which is absolutely fine, because what that's then going to allow you to do is that then allows you to protect the rest of your plays coming forward. So if you do make a free negate Appaloosa, everything else is now free. You've also put a Dark in the grave as well. You haven't used your normal summon, so what you want to be able to do is you want to go banish a light and a dark. So let's banish Curse and Black Collapse. Let's put them back into the deck. Summon down Chaos Creator. Chaos Creator's effect to put all three of these back into the deck and let you summon back Curse. Obviously Curse isn't great as attack wise, but it does give you instant rank 8 plays. Keep in mind we've got Pyro and a Cyverse in the grave, so you probably want to link up one more time. But you can also go Water Lily. Water Lily can send Alarit. Don't even need to use Alarit's effect, to be honest. But what you could do, if you want to be more aggressive, I believe these can summon in attack mode. Let me just double check. Yeah, so you could go, technically your Alarit, contribute your Reptile to summon itself back. And then what you can do is you banish the Cyverse, the Pyro, and the Reptile. And you bring out your Ishatos. Ishatos can call Dragon, Fairy, Thunder, Reptile, or anything on your opponent's board. Nuke the board straight away of whatever's left. You then have the ability, if you want to, you can normal summon your flag and you can make a rank 4 access code, or you can just keep it straightforward and simple, maintain some resource, overlay these into a rank 8, go straight into a Dragulabon, detach, bring out number 100, wham bam, thank you ma'am, you've got 9k going in direct, you've already nuked your opponent's board, and you're pretty much good to go from there. So it's up to you if you need multiple monsters to attack or less monsters to attack. You can go to a BLS with an Appaloosa and you still maintain 3 cards in hand, so that all you need to do is any of these, I mean just making Dragulabon and detaching any of the darks, sets up your Wyvern Buster for the next turn. You've got Nemesis Flag to put some of your banished cards back into the deck. You've got your Chaos Space to search out your Levianeer as well if you want to. So you've generally got just so much follow-up play from this hand. This is probably the absolute, as good as it gets. And keep in mind as well, we had to play around with the Snake Engine a little bit more. You had to kind of, we didn't get the Snake Rain, we didn't get the ability to put multiple snake targets into the grave, but we had enough to put what we needed to there and set up for the future plays. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it. I hope this test hand has been helpful for you. I hope you've kind of seen a couple of different combo plays or a couple of different routes for the deck as well. I absolutely love Chaos. I think the snakes are a really nice kind of introduction and they're relatively cheap right now. I think the Ultras are only sitting at like £8 each, so definitely worth picking them up as well. But as absolutely always, guys, don't forget to smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. If you get it up to at least 50 likes, I will bring you a duel involving this deck as well. But until next time, guys, as absolutely always, stay safe and happy dueling. Looking to pick up your very own custom sleeves? Well, look no further. Go to yourplaymat.com, where you can choose to have your very own image on the back of sleeves, or you can choose from their amazing range of pre-designed artwork ready and waiting for you. Get them shipped directly to your door and use the affiliate link and discount code down below to get 10% off. What are you waiting for? Go and grab your custom sleeves from yourplaymat.com.